Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic.
So we had a really successful meetup last night.
Yeah, we did. It wasn't just you and me having dinner at Soul Belly.
No, we were the minority.
Yeah.
We were the minority for once. There was 5 of us total. 3 guests and then us.
There was enough people there that if I didn't feel like talking for a few minutes, I didn't have to.
Yeah, it was amazing because then they would talk to each other. And we did it at Soul Belly in the evening now instead of in the daytime. And I got to tell you, I was impressed with Soul Belly. They were super busy.
Yeah.
The Wednesday night, and it was super busy.
They were unusually busy because it was the 3rd of July.
But then they had a team of Amazon women that
Tall.
they were really tall, really skinny.
Maybe it was a volleyball team and they were in town to see the Vegas Thrill.
That's a good point.
It is a long weekend, and you know how they like to do tournaments on these big, especially a 4-day weekend.
Yeah.
Like, think of how much tournamenting you could get in.
They keep the kids busy that way with summer activities, and there's always camps and everything. I remember Mitchell going through all that.
But there was like 16 to 19-year-old girls. They were all over 6 feet tall.
And interestingly, I think it was pretty much 50-50. Some were well under 18 and some were well over 18.
It's hard to tell with girls that age how old they are.
And especially when they're still active in a club sport like that.
My guess is they were probably like 16, 17, and some of them just looked older. As an example, I looked 21 at 13.
Yeah,
could fool pretty much anyone. So
then it would be more like the majority were like 16 or 17. Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree with you. But what was impressive was how there was she said it was like a party of 18.
Like 3 or 4 adults.
And she kept reminding us to make sure we turned in our order because the party of 18 was going to be turning in their order and it would take a long time. But they handled it so.
Yeah. That place is fantastic. So if you're ever in Las Vegas and you want freaking amazing barbecue and great service.
Soul Belly BBQ on Main Street in the Arts District.
It's probably a 5 to 10 minute drive from the Strip, depending on where you're staying.
Yeah.
But it's worth the quest. Don't go to the bullshit overhyped barbecue on the Strip. Go to Soul Belly. It's fantastic.
What's impressive with them is the service. And she remembers what you order all the time. It's pretty amazing. I don't know if you noticed, but the woman who joined us as a guest.
Yeah.
She was going to either cancel her order if it hadn't been put in or take it to go.
Yeah.
And then the woman said, what if it's ready? Can I bring it out to you? And she goes, sure. Miraculously, it was ready. I think she made them make it.
Barbecue should be pretty quick.
It just carve some beef off of the brisket.
Everything's been slow roasted. The sides probably are, but man, their food is good. I could eat there every night and be happy.
So that was quite successful. And we had taken our new friend with us. And so we had to bring him home. We dropped him off, and that's to the northwest of us. So we come home and we do the typical thing that we do. We come past the main street. We go up the side street.
There was some sus people.
And
4 dudes standing around a car in the cul-de-sac. Not parked up against the sidewalk or anything, like in the middle of the cul-de-sac.
So we come around the corner and they're letting off aerial fireworks.
Big ones.
The illegal kind. And they're literally 10 feet from a house.
Yeah. And 10 feet on one side was a house. 10 feet on the other side is park.
Yep. It wasn't a very smart place to be. I called the police right away. Before I even pull in the garage, I called the police. And put me on hold. They act like they're interested. They get, first things first, give him the major cross streets. And he wants to know the cross streets within the community.
What's hilarious is
all you got to do is look, bro.
He asked for the major cross streets first.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I gave it to him.
And then he acted all indignant.
Well, then he made the statement that the call had been set up and the officer was on the way.
Yeah.
They never showed up.
Never.
We have cameras. There was very little activity overnight out there.
Did you see the cat? There's always a cat. Around 1 a.m.
Yep.
Cruise up the driveway and then back down.
But it was just disappointing with how it was dealt with by the police, because they're always talking about wanting to stop crime. And is your reaction to this stuff?
Who goes to a street that you don't live on inside of a residential neighborhood
Yeah.
to light off fireworks? Like out where those idiots dump the trash. That's where I would go. There's no houses right there. It's Air Force land.
You're 100% going to start a fire, though.
Not any more likely than where they were. If you're on the berm or even on the road, that road doesn't get a lot of traffic. Don't go into somebody's little tiny neighborhood and set off fireworks right in front of their house. Don't be a douche.
Yeah, it was really rude. And then what ended up happening was, since I had already been resigned to the fact that the cops weren't coming, they moved to directly across the street from us to set off these poppers. And so as soon as the poppers stopped, I opened the door and I yelled, "The cops have been called," and I closed the door. It wasn't 5 minutes later that they left.
I watched them on the camera. They vacated where they were, went back to their car. They lit off one more firework and then they left.
Yeah, I scared them.
Well, the idea of the police probably scared them the most.
I scared them with that idea.
Now we'll see if they come back tonight.
Wow.
If you yelled at them tonight, it wouldn't have any effect, though, because no way police are going to do any fireworks calls tonight. They're going to be too busy responding to idiots who blow their hands off.
And they're going to worry about Airbnbs that are having barbecue parties.
I already saw something about them cracking down on long weekend bookings of Airbnbs.
Uh-huh. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And let's try to call it a public safety issue. I'm going to call it what it is. The casinos have them in their palm of their hand.
Do you want to know something interesting about that? I saw an op-ed that was written for some newspaper in New York. And they were talking about how this huge ban in New York City on Airbnbs has only benefited the hotels. It's not bringing rent prices down. It's not doing anything that it was said to would do when they put the law through, except help the hotels, who are now charging $500 and $600 a night, where before they were charging $200 to $300
because they have no competition.
because they can.
Yeah, they have no competition.
Yeah.
And eventually that will affect the economics of the city.
It's going to hurt the tourism industry for sure.
But that's what I'm saying. The big players are putting a kibosh on the Airbnbs. And in reality, maybe they should encourage it, because people still come to their hotels and spend money. I was just reading that gambling revenue is now only 27% of a resort's revenue. 27%. So that means that
it used to be 100%.
That means that 73% is coming from shows and food and restaurants and that sort of thing. That's a lot of money.
You see, the gamblers online are complaining now because comps are down.
Yeah.
And comps are down because they're not making as much money from the gambling.
They're not going to comp you on stuff that's the only way they're making money.
Yeah, we were talking about how comps are down.
Oh, yeah. All you got to do is attract people to town. And once they're in town, you get them into your restaurants. That's where the marketing team has to kick in.
Yep.
Because then you don't fight against Airbnb, because, in my opinion, helps places, because people who couldn't necessarily otherwise afford to travel here can because of an Airbnb.
That's interesting. Airbnb and one other major short-term rental platform are the ones cooperating with cities like the city of New York and Las Vegas. There's another very large major platform that I will not mention that does not comply with what they have to say at all. And the place that I work for has had their listings on both places for years. We never got any bookings from the place that isn't cooperating with New York. And now it's like more than half. Because people are just going to the other site. The rentals are still available. And it's going to put Airbnb out of business. And I'm just going to laugh and laugh.
Well, that's probably the ultimate goal of the municipalities.
Yeah, but don't they realize there's hundreds of other short-term rental sites out there that are just going to pop up and take over?
It's like the argument people used to give me when I said I was voting for a libertarian candidate president. Oh, you're wasting your vote. You know, or my favorite one would be, a vote for that person is actually a vote for this person. No, it's not a vote for that person. There's no correlation between people who vote for that person also being willing to vote for that person. We chose this person for a reason. We don't like that person. But they assume that it's a similar thing. No, not at $400 a night.
No.
And that's why places like Luxor and Excalibur and even New York, they're smart to keep their rates on the down low as best as they can. I think it's ridiculous, though, that $139 a night is considered reasonable and cheap. That's just to have a bed. And let's be real. Most people coming to Vegas aren't like us. They don't spend any time in their room. The only time they're in their room is if they're having sex or sleeping. That's it.
We take lots of naps when we go on vacation.
Yeah, it's what keeps us powered so we can go later into the night. Works really well. It works really well. And who cares? It's our business. Who cares what
we're
the
on
kid
vacation.
between-
If I want to take a damn nap, I'm going to take a damn nap.
And it's de-stressing too. That's the nicest thing about it. Especially when you're on vacation. You go to sleep, you wake up all refreshed, and you're like, all right, I'm ready to tackle the night. Let's go have dinner. The only thing that's always weird to me is because every hotel room is different, and it's never anything close like what you have at home. So you get there, and it's just like Alienville.
It bothers me at all.
It's like when we first moved here. It took me a long time to get used to the layout and not bang my toes on the wall and whatnot because I didn't know the layout of this place. It's just weird. Just a weird bunch of crap.
And to think the other day you walked into my office and broke one of your toes because the bed was there.
Yeah. See? You moved it there, though. You knew you wanted to break my toe.
You keep saying that.
Miss Olive told me the truth. Miss Olive.
You see how he's a dummy and hurts himself and it's my fault? See, people?
Everything else is my fault.
Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
I'm glad you rolled with that.
It's the truth.
All right. Whatever you say. I'm not going to argue. You don't see me arguing. I'm the one who went down that road because I agree with you. A lot of things are a man's fault. But
because men have less ability to pay attention to subtle cues and emotion doesn't mean that women shouldn't be better at explaining themselves and not being so fucking subtle. It's totally true.
Yeah, men should pay more attention so that they pick up on, you're not going to pick up on all of the subtle clues, but you'll pick up on some. But women also need to be a little more overt about what they're asking for.
If women were less subtle and men paid more attention, you'd meet in the middle a whole lot more often.
In a porn movie,
wow,
the woman wants to have sex. She's going to be very overt, grab him by the crotch, whatever. But in real life, that doesn't happen. A man might say, hey, I want to bleep. But most women, and of course, there's always outliers, guys, so please don't email us telling us, oh, I know this friend who has a friend who has a brother, has a sister who does this. No, we know there are outliers.
Please also don't email us if you're the person who, I just walk up to random men and grab them by the dick when I want to have sex. Don't do it.
Men will ask for it. Most women will not. They'll just do subtle things like brush up against you or whatever, or make little comments. But a lot of men are too dense to pick up on that. Not really because they're stupid, but because they freeze up because their women make them scared.
Right?
It's true. I know a lot of men like that. I was like that in my late teens, early 20s. But then I figured a few things out about the world, and it was like, oh, is that how it all works? And then just everything works after that. It's interesting, but I think everybody comes at that situation as though it's such a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Far. The fireworks are going to start at some point, and it's going to go.
Here is that it gets dark way later.
Yeah.
And so usually this shit doesn't start until it's dark. So it's way later, but that's also kind of part of the problem. But the good thing about it is where we used to live, it'd already be popping off by now.
Start with the safe and sane ones at 2, 3 in the afternoon, not stop. And then as soon as it got dark, the big ones would start.
Yeah. And it was just nonstop after that.
Yeah.
So anyway, Douglas is bothering us. He wants us to come out. So we will go see the Douglas.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.